Hey everyone, thanks for watching this interview I did with Angela Montanez. I wanted to say a few things before you actually watch the interview. I'm transitioning from video-based interviews to podcasts, and you can check my podcast out on the iTunes store at the Ian Kramer Podcast. If you're interested in these interviews that I do with health professionals and doctors who prescribe plants and people who have these remarkable health transformation stories, go there, listen to the podcasts. I won't be doing many more, if any more, of these video-based interviews. They'll all be podcasts. If you'd like to support the podcasts, there is an associated Patreon page by searching the Ian Kramer Podcast on patreon.com. The link to my Patreon page and to the podcast is down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting this message. Let's get healthier and let's stay healthier together. On episode 6 of Health Rebels, we're speaking with a woman who was so sick as a child that she was a Make-A-Wish Foundation recipient. Doctors said she wouldn't live past the age of 10, but now she's thriving. As an adult, she dropped over 120 pounds, dropped her corticosteroid use because of an autoimmune disease, and regained her health. Please welcome Angela Montanez. All right, let's get started. Angela Montanez, speaking to us from New York City. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you.
I want to start out with life before your health transformation. What were some of the events and factors that led sort of to your poor health as you were a child and growing up?
That's tough because after I was admitted to the hospital, and even before then, they knew something was wrong. I had jaundice in my eyes. I was always very skinny and very frail. And doctors really didn't know. My parents really didn't know. It was kind of one of those like up in the air things, like what happened and how did this decline happen? Was it so fast? Was it over the course of years? No one really knew. So, yeah.
Okay. So at what point did the doctors finally diagnose you with an autoimmune disease?
It was 91, I believe. And I had a fever, vomiting, a very high temperature, very high blood pressure, and I had liver failure. So it was very fast. And then after they questioned my mom in the ER a few times, they realized that in 1988, they had done a blood work. My sisters and I were going to camp every single year. So they realized that there was some abnormality in the blood work in the liver that no one had actually mentioned. And I think because they figured that it was normal, or maybe because during that time there was some type of infection like chickenpox. So of course there was going to be some type of abnormality, but they didn't think anything of it. And then they had this watch and wait attitude.
Mm-hmm. And what kind did the doctors offer any type of treatment at the time for this autoimmune disorder, or were they just sort of like, do your best?
In 88, they weren't actually sure, so it was watch and wait. In 91, they hospitalized me. And they were not actually sure how to treat it. Whereas now you have so much, there's so, I don't want to say so much research, but there's more knowledge and there's more familiarity when it comes to autoimmune diseases and how to symptomatically treat it. But during that time, they really just had no clue whatsoever. So it was watch and wait. We'll try certain types of medications and we'll just see how it goes. So the first 2 weeks of hospitalization, I was in isolation.
Wow. And does this particular autoimmune disorder or disease have a name, or is it very general autoimmune disease?
It's autoimmune chronic active hepatitis.
Gotcha.
And it progressed to cirrhosis about 3 or 4 years ago.
I read that in your Forks Over Knives article. I'm going to ask something about that a little bit later. But in what way did your foods, did you find that your foods interacted with your autoimmune disorder?
Hmm. That's interesting because I'm still realizing that today. I always find that at certain points along my journey, I become a beginner again. And as frustrating as that is, it helps me really to relate to what many people are still going through. So I would definitely say I realized that probably about 2 to 3 months into my journey the first time around in I would say 2012 to 2013. And I saw how every time I would go to the doctor to give blood work, I saw how the blood work was declining. And so that was rather exciting because you hear so much, especially from allopathic practitioners. They say, well, your diet doesn't really have too much to do with what's going on, so it's not really going to change things dramatically. And you're like, okay, well, honestly, I don't have much of a choice here, so I have to go with what is in front of me. And so I did that with diet, and I also did that with the supplement Milk Thistle that one of the fellows that I was seeing had recommended, and he swore up and down, don't tell anybody I'm recommending this to you. And I've never mentioned his name, but I have said millions of times, like, yes, he recommended it to me, and it dropped my inflammation by half, more than half. And then at that point, I knew, okay, now I have to implement diet. We'll see how far this can go.
Interesting, very interesting. And I'm definitely going to ask you a little bit later too about your herbs and your specialty with herbs. Did you have a particular inspiration for change, and if you can sort of what made you, because I understand, the way I understand it is you were a child diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and watching some clips, you grew up not eating the best. But was there a particular impetus to change, or motivation? Was it a particular blogger? Was it a particular inspiration?
Yes, not dying. That's the only that's the only way I can put it, was not
Oh,
dying.
okay.
Yeah, because when you get to rock bottom or you get to desperation, you will really do whatever it is you have to do to pretty much just save your own life and to really thrive in a new situation. There were a lot of YouTubers that were really inspirational, like Christina Carillo Bucaran of Fully Raw Christina, and then you have Francesca Medina of Hey Fran Hey, Tasha Edwards, the sweetest vegan. She does a lot of like soul food and a lot of comfort foods when it comes to vegan food. There were so many people, and it was inspiring. But at the same time, I really had to, my motivation every single day was I need to get closer to lower inflammation, and I need to be as far away from not dying today as possible. That was a big motivation.
I'm sure. I'm definitely sure it was. And throughout your health journey, was there ever any, the way I understand it, since there was a Forks Over Knives article, is that you chose a largely whole foods plant-based lifestyle. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was there ever any calorie restriction, ever any special foods, any special cleanses or detoxes involved with your health journey?
I kept it simple. I was very nervous about rocking the boat when it came to my health because it was already so fragile. So I kept it super simple. I did a lot of juicing. I did a lot of raw foods. If I cooked, because I do recall cooking some meals, I think I did like one meal a day that was cooked. And a lot of the times it was breakfast because I love breakfast foods. Eggs were the hardest thing to shake. I think I shook eggs probably for about a month or two, and then it became quite difficult. Um, and it's still difficult. But Yeah, I did juicing, I did raw foods. I had one cooked meal a day that was so ideal for my body. I was like at the optimal when it came to that type of eating regimen. And just a lot of fruits and veggies. I did a lot of salads. I steamed, baked, sauteed, what have you. Lots of fruits and veggies, very little grains. I made grains probably like 5 to 10% of my diet, only because I saw how they were interacting with my body. A lot of rice. My family's from Puerto Rico, so it's always been rice and beans every day, rice and beans every which way. And I realized that rice was really having an adverse effect on my gut. So now I have to find different types of grains, like amaranth and quinoa and bulgur and other things to really supplement that because the rice wasn't working for me, you know?
And I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that was the next question I was going to ask is, even on a plant-based diet, what foods did you find interacted poorly or did not really sit well with your body? And as you just said, rice was one of them. Can you sort of name, from your experience, can you name some foods that perhaps if someone's suffering from an autoimmune disease and they're not quite eating a whole foods plant-based diet, what are some of the foods that really wreak havoc on the body if it has an autoimmune disease or disorder?
Oh boy. Dairy, definitely dairy. Dairy, you may as well just plant a little mini bomb inside of your body with dairy. That is just horrendous for autoimmune diseases. It really sparks a lot of inflammation. Your body has to work so much harder just to try and process that. I would definitely say meat. Meat is another one that is really, really just bad. I mean, I would say across the board, but everybody's body is so different. But if you have an impairment within your health, like an autoimmune disease, meat is going to be harder to digest. That certain portion of your body that has that impairment is just going to go haywire. And it sits in your body for a couple days. People think that your body breaks down the food. These things right here break down the food, and a lot of people don't chew their body. A lot of people don't chew their food well enough, finally, to break it down enough. So you end up with a lot of additional health issues that tend to crop up because you're not breaking down the food well enough, because you're not choosing the food well enough. A lot of people just buy meat, just buy dairy, just buy white flour products, just buy wheat flour products. I had to cut out those types of flours, causing so much inflammation. Another thing is, I'm very much clairvoyant, very intuitive. And so I got a sneak peek because I was having a hard time detaching from flowers. And sometimes I still have that problem where it's like, I just need a cake pop, right? And so I had a hard time detaching from those type of flowers. And I got a sneak peek in a spiritual realm of how the flour, white flour, wheat flour, was really sticking to my liver and how it was causing inflammation and what it looked like. And at that point I cringed and I was like, that is the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen. And so those types of images and those types of knowing really helped me to make the decisions that I've made.
Your People magazine article blamed your, quote, carb and dessert heavy diet as the reason for your poor health. I just want to clarify, though, it's my understanding you are whole foods plant-based, and your diet is still, to my, pretty carb heavy. You're just eating different carbs. Is that correct, or am I mistaken?
I would say, it's definitely a good mix. Um, no, I'm thinking about what you said as far as like sweets and what was the other thing that they mentioned in the article?
Oh, it's so carb and dessert heavy diet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I was going through pints of Haagen-Dazs. I remember that. Pints and pints of Haagen-Dazs because I love ice cream, and now I'm able to really substitute that with vegan ice cream, and it's all still sugar anyway. So, yeah, I would definitely say so as far as veggies are concerned, as far as fruits are concerned. Um, I would definitely say that, but in a different way. I don't have as much breads. I
Hmm.
was very big on breads. I was like a bread queen, okay? And I don't really do that anymore because I don't do a lot of the white flours and the wheat flours, and so much, even boxed products have a lot of wheat flour and corn.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's like all of these foods that you don't realize once you
Right.
stop to actually research. You're like, I'm dropping bomb after bomb into my gut and wondering what the problem is. But I think I'm like so many other people where I go through these highs and lows in my diet, and I'm constantly going up this mountain, and then I kind of fall back down. It's like in that what is it, that Greek mythology where he's rolling the ball up the hill
Right.
and then it goes back down, then you're rolling it back again. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty carb heavy, but in different ways.
I wish I knew. I'll put a little clip of that Greek that mythology. I can't think of his name either. I know what you're talking about. I understand that so you said earlier you have a particular passion for herbs and plants and the role that they play in detoxing for disease reversal. You mentioned
Mhm.
earlier the milk thistle, which I find interesting. What got you interested into this subspecialty? Was it the milk thistle?
It was. I had heard my great uncle say all for most of my life, battling with this autoimmune disease. Oh, you need to take milk thistle. You need to take milk thistle, and he was always one that took a lot of supplements. And I remember at one point he brought this liquid in a dropper, milk thistle, home, and I had taken it for about 2 or 3 weeks, but it was the most disgusting thing I ever had, and it wasn't in a concentrated form, and I didn't have a practitioner that was well versed enough to understand to check for inflammation markers based on the fact that I had started taking this milk thistle. So the practice of it didn't last at all. It wasn't until, what was it, 2012, when he said, go to this website. It's called, this is the website and what it's called. Order this product. Some of my patients have had success on this milk thistle, some haven't. Let's see how you do. Whatever you do, do not tell anyone I suggested this to you, that I recommended this to you. And like I said, I saw my inflammation markers drop by more than half. And then at that point, I knew, I said, there's more to this. Um, and I have to go on this journey. I have to find out what it is, especially when he tells you, oh, you progressed to cirrhosis, and then there's a pause. And he just kind of sheds a tear or two and then silently weeps inside, and you think, this is bad. This is really bad, but you know what, it's been 20 something years on this journey. I know that there's going to be another lifeline available for me, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do at this point, just to live. And so when he stopped and lifted his head up from the desk and said, I got it, okay, this is what we're going to do, I knew. I said, okay, it's my lifeline.
Hmm. Hmm.
Going with it.
So I'm curious, you don't have to mention this person's name, you don't have to mention the website, but I'm curious why he said, don't tell anyone I told you this.
He said, don't tell anyone I recommended this to you, because um, within that traditional Western allopathic field, um, I absolutely knew that if it didn't work out well, he could definitely lose his license. He could get in trouble. Um, even even if it worked out as well as it could be, um, there would still be some type of consequence, because you know doctors, they have contracts with prescription companies. They have contracts with drug companies, you know. My twin sister, I have an identical twin sister, and she used to date a young man, and his father was a rheumatologist. And she went to all these parties and all these galas and functions and saw him shaking hands with different, representatives from different drug companies. They have contracts, and this was way out of what, especially within his present employer within this hospital system, he definitely could have gotten in trouble for that.
I gotcha. I
So I
see.
never mentioned his name. I just mentioned the situation all the time.
Gotcha. I gotcha now. That makes sense. Give us an important takeaway from your experience in using herbs and other plant medicinals. To those of us who, like, I'm very unfamiliar with that particular field. So what are some things that you've learned that are really, really powerful? Besides the milk thistle, let's say.
Okay, artichoke. Artichoke is another immune boosting, liver fighting plant. They have it in powdered form, plant-based. Artichoke is really, really good. Let me see what else. Garlic. Garlic. Garlic is amazing. Garlic is like nature's antibiotic, right? It's so amazing. I'm pickling some garlic now in a jar, just so that it eases the burn on your stomach when you pickle it. So I'm pickling it with apple cider vinegar because I can't do it with any alcohol to draw out the healing properties. And so I'm doing that. Garlic is so amazing. It's immune boosting. It's antifungal, antimicrobial, antiviral. When I have a cold, it used to take me 2 months to get over a cold between the asthma and between between all of the elements and the low immune system that I would have with colds, and then it would always progress to bronchitis, and it was just a mess. When I get sick, it was always a mess. Now when I get colds, I usually get them two years at a time. So I have it for 2 years. I have it once for 2 years, and then I don't have it again. And 1 year I got it back to back. So I got it, and I knocked it out with garlic and cayenne pepper and apple cider vinegar, warm apple cider vinegar with honey. And I knocked it out within 3 days. I felt the fever break, and I was like, "Whoa, that's the power of the plants, baby!" Right?
Yeah.
And then within 2 more days, I was around somebody else, and boom, I got another cold. And I wasn't even nervous. I was like, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
I got my garlic. So I love, love, love garlic, in addition to the taste. So there's garlic, there's artichoke, coconut. Coconut, there's so much research that goes back and forth, and sometimes it seems like a struggle because any such day could be, okay, well, coconut oil is not great for the liver, and I experienced that where it's like coconut is amazing, so I get coconut milk and I get coconut manna, coconut butter, coconut everything, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Here's a new article, coconut is not good for the liver. Okay, let's slow down on the coconut. It's always going to be back and forth, so I tend to just go with my instinct on that one, and I'm like, okay, so what are we doing today? Are we doing coconut or are we not doing coconut, Lots of, let me see, herbs, cilantro. Latin people love cilantro. I love cilantro. Chelation properties. I love the flavor. I love the way it makes me feel. Parsley, rosemary. Rosemary is really amazing when it comes to what is the percentage? I think it's like 10 or 20% in the summertime when you're grilling, especially when you're grilling meat, and the proximity to the charcoal that you have the meat on. And I've read that if you put rosemary on top of the charcoal when you're burning the meat, when you're grilling it, it reduces the cancer-causing effects of that relationship between the charcoal and the meat by like 10 to 20%. And so usually when my family grills during the summertime, I'm like, wait a minute, where's the rosemary? And if I don't have any fresh rosemary, I'll just pour like half of the container of the dry rosemary over the charcoal. So there's so much because herbs have such an amazing chelation property where it takes the toxins within the body, a lot of toxins that cause a lot of inflammation. Some people say, oh, it's water weight, and it's a little bit more than that. It causes inflammation. It causes swelling. A lot of times people are on plant-based diets. People are eating healthy. They're working out, and they can't figure out, why can I not lose this last bit of weight? Why can I not lose? Why am I a little pudgy here? Why do I feel like I'm retaining water or something like that? Add more herbs into your diet. You're going to see that the toxic compounds within your body, those toxic elements, draw to those herbs, and then they get flushed out. And I experienced that.
Interesting.
It was so interesting. Yeah.
I can do artichokes. I love garlic. I can't do cilantro though. It tastes like dish soap. Have you ever heard that from people?
No, I
Yeah,
haven't.
so there, I've read a couple articles about this, that there is a very large group of people who have this particular taste center on their tongue or in their brain that they just don't like cilantro. It tastes like dish soap to them. So
Hmm.
but I think that's, maybe it's not the majority, but there's a few people like that. I can't do it. But I like all your other suggestions. And of course,
Hmm.
if you enjoy cilantro, eat more of it. How I asked this question to pretty much all of the health rebels, because I hope that people who want to get healthier, or perhaps who have failed at dieting or becoming healthier, are watching this. So my question to you is this: how did you succeed at getting healthier where so many people fail?
Huh. It's funny, before you continued the last half of that, I thought I succeeded. I
I,
succeeded.
I
I
would
don't.
say your story is a success story.
It definitely, it's a story of the way I look at it. It's a story of survival, and I just had that word. I don't want to say triumph, but it feels like triumph, but it feels like a triumph that it's still part of a journey that has not ended, which I'm glad for. you know. Um, but how have I succeeded where others have not? You know, it's back to your why. What's your why? What's your big why? I said that in the video. What's your big why? And it's so funny because my big why was, I just want to live. I want to stay on this earth longer. I want to learn something that not a lot of people have learned, or some other people have learned. I want to find that needle in the haystack. I want to know. Before I leave this earth, I want to know. I have to know, what is the key to a healthier body. I've been around doctors all my life, and they've treated things symptomatically. And I've always heard there's no cure for this, but there's treatment. And I've always found frustration with that, because I thought, well, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense, because if there's an illness, especially in this world, in my mind, in this world, we are provided with everything that we absolutely need. How could we not be provided with absolutely everything that we need in this realm when there's sickness? If there's illness and we have been provided with that illness, there should be a cure. There should be some type of culmination of treatment.
Hmm.
If there's day, there's night. If there's sun, there's moon. There's a yin, and then there's a yang. So where's the other half of that? We're missing a piece of the puzzle. You see it in nature all the time, in the natural world, where there's one part and then there's another part. But within the healthcare system, within this medical field, we're only getting half of that. So where's the other part?
Mm-hmm.
And so okay, there's a part that I'm missing. And so I have succeeded is that I became hungry enough to decide I need to find where that part is. And mentally, no matter what happens, even if I go off track, I need to get my ass back on track
Mm-hmm.
because this is my very life. I'm not losing weight to look good. I'm not losing weight, to be a fitness model or something like that. It's not a very physical thing. It's a very internal thing. It's a very it's such an ingrained journey that for me it just signals and amplifies what my life is. My mother was on this journey and she lost her life at 40, and that was very devastating. I recently I was a caregiver to my great aunt, and she was 83. And it doesn't matter how old these people are, you still want them to hang around a little bit longer. You're like, I can do this, And she had dementia and Parkinson's. And I really believe I was caregiving for her for about 5 years. And I really believe if that was not the case, she probably would have went sooner. And then right after that, and that was this year, and then right after that was my dog. And so I'm not only on a journey for myself, but I'm on a journey for my family members and my pets as well. I've learned a lot when it comes to animals and their diets. And my dog had a naturopathic practitioner. I have a naturopathic practitioner. It's a journey. You have to be hungry enough to do whatever it is possible for your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If someone wants to get in touch with you, if someone wants to maybe ask you more questions about anything that they've heard in this interview, where are you on social media? How can they find you?
I made it super simple. It's super simple. It's Angela L. Montanez across the board. So I'm on Periscope. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. Am I missing one? I'm everywhere across the board. Angela L. Montanez. And it's just the same everywhere, except my website is www.door-24.com. And people were like, well, why didn't you call it AngelaMontanez.com or Angela.rocks or something, right? And during the time when I had started Door 24, it has evolved over the years. I used to do public relations and special event planning. And so I started as a public relations company because I really wanted it to be a tribute to my mother. Because at the time when we were going through our illnesses together, because she had systemic lupus erythematosus, so she also had an autoimmune disease. And my twin sister actually has autoimmune hepatitis as well. And so during that time, when I started my company, it was a tribute to my mother because we lived in a building called Building D and our apartment was 24. And so when I was trying to figure out, well, how do I want to do this? I really wanted it to be a tribute to her and to our journey together. We would go to the hospital together. We would see doctors together. We were on this journey together. So when I lost her, I felt like I had lost a partner that I was going through this journey with,
Mm-hmm.
and that was rough. So I'm the same across the board, except for my website, which is door24.com. And my blog is called The Citrus Life. My twin sister came up with it because in the beginning, when I started on this journey, everything for me was about fruits and veggies. And my favorite color growing up was orange. And so even now, like, I'm obsessed with oranges. I'll have these cravings for oranges. And lately I've said I will slit somebody's throat for an orange right now because it can be that real, especially when my immune system is low. I'm like, I need an orange. I need a grapefruit. And so it's called The Citrus Life. But everywhere else, social media, Angela L. Montanez.
Well, I will put everything you just said down in the description so you can reach Angela. I think that about wraps it up. I think we're about done with the questions. Thank you very much for your time, Angela. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I definitely enjoyed this.
We'll keep in touch, all right, on social media.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.